Well, hello everybody. Thought I would shoot a quick video at the end of this week talking about the midterm. Now that the midterm is done, I've done kind of a post-mortem on it to see kind of where we are standing. I did have a few of you reach out to me. You weren't so happy that you missed a few questions on the midterm. You were concerned about your grades. I replied back to you saying, you have to wait until it closes out so that I can see what the whole class looks like, if there's going to be any adjustments, if we had bad questions, etc., etc. All right, so I've done that analysis, and here's kind of what it looks like. So based off of without doing any adjustments, I like to look at, what was the average score, what was the high score, and just take a very superficial look at it initially. 76 isn't horrible. It's usually a little bit lower than than what I like. Every instructor's different. Some people are like, hey, 76, that's a C. That should be the midpoint of the bell curve. For me, that's typically a little low. I like to see that a little bit higher, maybe in the low to mid 80s for the average score. But we're at a 76, so it's causing a little bit of concern with me. And then the high score at a 90. Okay, that's great. We've had a few people that scored 90s, a few people that scored in the very upper 80s. So that part looks kind of good. But let's take a little bit deeper dive into it. And with that, then I did basically an analysis on each question. And were there any bad questions in the exam? And bad questions for me is anything that where half of you have missed it. If more than half of you have missed that question, I want to, really look at it and see if we're going to toss it out. So with that that analysis, there's a difficulty index, but that's basically, fancy words for did more than half of you miss that question. There were 7 questions where more than half of you have missed those. I'm going to briefly just scroll through here. If you want, you can pause and look at those questions, and I'll tell you why that will be important right after we're done scrolling here. But again, 7 questions. I did look at the questions to see where they just keyed in incorrectly or wrong. There didn't appear to be any errors there. I think where the difficulty came into them, some of the actual question itself wasn't too difficult. It was the responses, the 4 selections that you have. There was a little bit of critical thinking because it wasn't, you had to kind of take an extra step in some cases, and almost all the cases with these 7 questions, in order to select the correct answer. So versus just kind of rote memorization would somewhat fail you in these questions unless you kind of knew the meaning behind what was being asked. So that's, the level of difficulty was ratcheted up on these, especially on these particular 7 questions. Okay, so there's the 7 questions. What are we going to do with them? What I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to award points for you. Those are basically going to be considered bad questions. Again, some of you reached out to me concerned that you were going to fail the class. I mean, no one, if you're doing all of your assignments, you're not failing the class. Now, if there are folks who have no work completed, then yes, that's how you fail the class. But if you're doing a good faith effort, you're not going to fail the class. But what I told those students is that we had to wait to see when everybody was done, and then I might curve the exam. So awarding back 7 questions will, affect a curve on this particular midterm. So the average, again, when we looked at that average of 74, that's you got 38 out of 50 questions right. We're going to award 7 questions back. I'm going to go in and manually adjust your scores. So everybody will be floated up 14 points. That will actually bring, if we look at our original average, of 76. We floated up 14 points. That brings the class average to a 90. So that's pretty good. So look for that adjustment. I'll be making that adjustment today. Probably by the time you watch this video, the adjustment has already been made on that. The other thing I wanted just to draw your attention to was, I know some of you were concerned about the study guide that I have. Like, geez, it's so long. It was like 14 pages. Yes, but I was trying to condense down probably about 200 and some odd pages of material into that 14 pages, and where hopefully I was hoping that with the study guide, all the answers were in it. So, but sometimes not completely overt. So with that, let's see here. You know, each question tied back to a specific spot in that study guide. So I wanted to make sure, you know, that was happening, you know, with each question. Not necessarily overt. Sometimes you had to take it that next step, but you know, that was my hope with the study guide. I mean, theoretically, if you kind of just read the study guide, you probably could have passed the exam. Maybe not with a 90, but you know, maybe a low 80s. So that's what I'm going to hope to do with these study guides. I'm probably going to think of retooling that for the final. Now let's talk about so there's that with the study guide. So hopefully for some of you that did, you know, reasonably well, the study guide did help you, because I tried to make sure I Easter egged every one of the questions in that study guide. That there was might have been, I sprinkled a little extra in there, but I tried to Easter egg every one of those 50 questions in that study guide. Okay, so for the future, here's what we're going to do. I most likely is that for the final, it will not be comprehensive, so we'll just cover the last information. So that will help. You don't have to worry about the entire textbook. I'll work on a maybe a more different approach to the study guide that's even more clear. So if I do get a study guide, it's going to be even more precise. Like knowing, like if you just memorize that, you'll probably do well. And I'm thinking maybe incorporating some sort of worksheets, if optional, that will be very closely correlated to the final. So there you go. You know, it might be just like, here's a question, go find the answer. Oh, I take the final. There's that question. And then I got to, you know, I've already wrote the answer. I just got to remember what it is. So I think I'm going to do something like that. So kind of, again, these are not extra homework, but you'll have a worksheet that you can fill out. You'll have a study guide. And then, well, of course, you have the actual exam. But between the study guide and the worksheet and your textbook, you can triangulate on all of those to come up with the answers in the worksheet, or, you know, get the answers in the worksheet, and then you'll be, my hope would be you'll be very well prepared for that final exam. All right, so there's that. So I think we got some changes there. Overall, with the ProctorU, there were a few of you that had difficulties, but you were able to work that out. Remember, as I mentioned in one of my videos, if you do have technical issues, you know, emailing me or texting me, I can't help you. There's like zero, I have zero access to ProctorU. You have to use that customer service number. They got a phone number and they got a chat, online chat. So before you go into the exam, you might want to make sure you copy that. That information was in the module, and kind of that essential information that you need to know before you take the exam. That's one piece that you probably definitely want to maybe copy, put it on your desk. So if you have an issue, you go, okay, here's who I can call. Because I know that can be very frustrating, especially when you're up against the deadline, which was Wednesday, and you're trying to take it on a Wednesday, and now it's not working for you. So my recommend, now that we've all gone through this once, you should be fine. Those of you that have already had it, are ProctorU experts and you're fine with that. I know there was a group of you that this was brand new to you, so you're kind of going through that learning curve. So hopefully, okay, for the final, you'll be ready to go and all set with that. Know that you can't use a Chromebook and all the other things that are kind of little things that can get you that we try to make clear on the instructions, but sometimes you just have to go through it to realize, you know, here's what you have to do to be ready for it. Okay, so there's that. So hopefully ProctorU will be better. Is there another way to do this? Probably not. You know, the other way would be to physically, no one wants to physically come to campus and watch me take the exam. Have me watch you take the exam. You can watch me take the exam, but no, you know, it doesn't work. So, and many of you live out of state, and that part just, you know, there's nothing, I guess, as, you know, as far as convenience factor, is just sitting down in your own workplace, your own office, and taking that. So, I don't think we can get away from that part. If something new technology comes out, we're definitely, you know, the college will look at that. I know ProctorU, there's only a handful of proctoring services out there. We vetted them all initially, as actually before COVID, surprisingly, and then COVID hit, and we had, you know, ProctorU was the company that we had already decided to use for the college. So we're kind of stuck with that. At the time, it was the best one. So there's that. If something better comes out, great, but there's always going to be some sort of proctoring environment that we're going to have to employ. All right, so that goes with the technology. The last thing I wanted to mention, I know, again, some of you are concerned with your grades. The course is designed so that if you complete everything, if you turn in all of your assignments and in good faith effort, okay, you're going to get at least a B in the class. You know, for those of you that, you know, are able to, the content, you're able to master it, and, you know, that, then you're looking, you know, at a solid A. But again, the course is designed, if you just kind of grind through it, anybody that's a grinder is going to get a B in the class, kind of at a minimum. So just make sure you're getting everything in, doing all the easy points, which you now know what the easy points are, the gimmies that are automatic 20s. You'll be fine. However, I know some of you are concerned. So there will be extra credit. It'll be in Module 6. If you need it, you can do it. My guess is you're going to look at your points and go, I probably don't need it. You're still facing a final, so I don't know, you might want to do it. But I will have extra credit in Module 6, and you just need to turn it in before the last day of the course in Module 7 if you want me to count it towards your points. So there you go. A little stressful, guys. I know that, you know, all of that is, you know, kind of a difficult process. But hopefully, again, the final will be easier because the technology and all that other pieces, and I'll add a few extra chunks in there for study preparation that will help as well. All right, so have a great week. Weekend. Try to relax a little bit. Next week will be our standard, you know, kind of, you know, well, this week and this week, or which we're just completing, and next week kind of our standard fare before we get into, you know, into that final. So there you go. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks.